I mean, I'm obviously very happy that we got that result. Yeah, and I mean, obviously the only thing I'm disappointed about is we comes at a cost of an injury. So, but we can only control the controllables, and every team sits with major injuries this season. And you look at Damien, I'm just using, who's also a hell of an important forward. Stormers isn't playing, and you look at Andre Esthuizen for the Sharks now sitting out. So it's definitely, I mean, it's obviously one of the things that all the teams have to cope with. But I'm very happy. I mean, I thought the first 60 minutes we were really good again. Last 20, no one's fault. I just thought we lost rhythm, and we lost a couple of lineouts which put us under a bit of, I wouldn't say pressure, but couldn't get any rhythm. So, but very happy, and we wanted to win by 22. It's one of those funny games because you think about it. I mean, how do you plan to win by 22 points, and how do you plan you don't concede 4 tries, and you go for poles, and then they get an intercept try, and then all of a sudden they could score 2 tries. All of a sudden you lose, you win by 21. That's not enough. So I'm just very happy and obviously proud that they managed the game the way they had to for the whole 80 minutes.
Coach,
Unbelievable. I mean, said it to you guys the other day in the press conference. I mean, just to have him as I told you, he's growing the most. He's probably the most. What's the word I'm looking for? I said to you on Friday. Was it the most? The players developed the most in the time that I've been here. I mean, there were times when I was picking him as captain. I remember sitting in this table and guys were looking at me like I was crazy. Why did you make him captain? He's never captained before. He's come through. He hasn't played Craven Week. He didn't even come through the junior ranks. And all of a sudden, when you guys see firsthand what he's worth when he's on the field, the difference between him being there and what we've done the last couple of weeks is immeasurable. So I had to, obviously didn't want him to play 80 minutes the first game, so I had to box a bit clever there. But he's shown that by playing international rugby that he can get better and better and better. And that's all you want, is you want players at the club who go and play internationally to come back and bring that worth back to the club. So I'm over the moon that he's obviously not hasn't re-injured himself, and I'm over the moon that the stuff he's learned at international rugby is definitely rubbing off on the other players.
The dominance up front, suddenly, what would you contribute to?
Yeah, I mean, they've got 2 20-year-old guys in the front row, and he's scrumming against Wilco and Gerard, to both Springboks, and they're incumbent Springboks too. So, we targeted that. We targeted that call. We wanted to make sure that set piece-wise they were under pressure. We kicked the ball out as well, which is different to what we've done before. We kept the ball in against other teams, so we wanted to put their line out under pressure. I mean, I think it's a little bit of everything. I think we'll get better and better and better. Our scrum, since Wilco's arrived, you all know that our scrum is really, really good. But I also put it in perspective. If you've got, I'm going to share this with you, but every club who tries to bring a group that isn't their number one group, that's what happens. And so even a club that spends 46 million euros on their budget, that's what it looks like when you're not, when you don't have, and I can't talk for them, but I'm just covering for us, is that when we go and we get it wrong, that's what happens when you don't have depth right through the group. And that's where we want to go to as a union. We want to try and get to a point where we got to have 2 full sides that can compete.
Jake, maybe just take us through the thought process, because obviously winning a lot, as you always say, is non-negotiable for the team.
Yep.
But there's a difference between that and 22 points, because I think a lot of people would probably say, well, if you won and you didn't have the extra travel that's coming now with the Challenge Cup,
Yes.
It probably would help you in the URC. So just in terms of that process.
Well, Brendan, I mean, it probably would have, and I would have been sitting here saying we've lost 5 in a row, and I would have had to say to you, how the hell am I going to get out of that corner? So I mean, we need to win. You're right. Number 2 is I just enjoyed the way we managed the game by having to score 22 more points than that. I've been coaching a long time, and you sometimes take it for granted everyone in your team understands how you're going to win by 22 points. I mean, I watched the game last night, Ulster against Exeter, and the same thing. Ulster needed to win by X amount of points, and Exeter scored first. So it just showed that there's a lot of learnings that happen every single week. And what I really enjoyed is that I mean, there's an example of Ruan Nokia took the 3 points. Now, I mean, what he had worked out in his head is we've got to keep making sure we've got the bonus point. Now we have to make sure that we, some other captains might have said, let's kick in the corner and see whether or not we get another try. Now, doesn't mean one's right or one's wrong, but I enjoyed the fact that there was a thought process that went through it. So, but it comes at an expense because you've got to play another away game. I think, if I'm right, I think we need to play away. I don't think we get the right to host a top 16 game based on the fact that we've won, one game. And that comes with a hell of a difficulty, because I also want to share with you that those two games, whether we win and play the next week or 2 weeks before, in other words, 2 consecutive weeks before we play Munster and Glasgow. Now that means it's a 4-week tour. So if we win the first one, we're there for the second one, we're there for Munster, and then we're there for Glasgow. That's a 4-week tour again. So much for playing in Europe and not spending as much time away from home. And we have had a very difficult, the draw has just been like that. We spent 3 weeks before the Springbok tour away and then spent 2 weeks after the Springbok tour away. Now, it's not going to be like that every year. I'm giving you some of the uncontrollables we've had. But we managed that quite well, and we managed to beat Connacht away. And we managed to win, 2 out of our 3 away games without all the Springboks because they had to have their leave. So, there are a lot of positives we got out of touring, a lot of positives we got out of creating depth, but it's not easy when you spend another 4 weeks away from home.
And then, Jake, there was a stat on the EPCR website that has at the highest defenders beaten in the competition,
Yeah.
the Champions Cup.
Yeah.
7 tries today. Are you happy that whatever was going wrong or whatever was missing has now been sorted?
No, nothing went wrong. It's just you play Northampton that scored about 7 tries against everyone in the Premiership. You play Saracens who've won 3 European titles, and you play Cust in Cust that have beaten Toulouse in Cust. So there's nothing. It's not a hidden secret. If you catch Cust at Cust, ask Toulouse, they lose. You play Saracens with a win behind them in the second half, you lose. So I genuinely don't think it's something like, are you happy now that the defense today was outstanding, but it was a completely different challenge to what we've been given by those 3 sides that are, in perspective, you must understand, Northampton played semi-finals last year, and they lost just before, they could have got into the final. Saracens are predominantly, for the last couple of years, been always one of the top sides in Europe. And then Cust, as I said, that's a very difficult ground. I'm taking nothing away from the fact is I even saw Rory Cockett here, and he played at Cust, and I said to him last week, back in your hometown, it just again reinforced and reminded me of how tough it is to go to Cust and win. So, we wanted to play in the next round. We wanted to try and give ourselves a chance to win another trophy, and at this point in time, we're in the top 16s of the Challenge Cup, which is still keeps us alive. And one thing we all know, once the Bulls are alive, anything can happen.
Just finally, your person's injury, how bad is it?
Yeah, it's one of those. I just asked the doc. He said it's one of those. At the moment, it's very difficult because it's swollen, and so he'll go for a scan on Monday and see. But he's got knees like crystal. You all know that. He's had lots and lots of knee injuries. So I'm hoping that it's the least of so that'll be like a meniscus or a cartilage as opposed to a ligament. But I can't speculate now until I get the scan. Thank you, thanks, Andrew.
Coach, congratulations on the win. So now that you're still alive in what you wanted to still be alive in the case in the EPCR Challenge, how do you navigate the balance between wanting to be competitive and have that UFC momentum, and also just the challenges you spoke about now? Do we see another split of your squad where we see the less problem faces in UFC rugby, like the Emmons, and the leaders getting an opportunity there? Or do you have to try and mix it up because there will be some competitive games on the other side?
I'm going to be genuinely honest with you. I haven't even thought about that, because first things first is we had to qualify for this, and now that we're through, now I can start working out when do they play, who do we play before, who do we play after, as I said, because by the end of the weekend we'll know where we got to travel to, and could be Connacht. I'm just using example. Could be Ospreys. So once I get that, then I can decide how we're going to manage the 4-week tour. And again, I'm again not being presumptuous, but I'm assuming that if we win the top 16, we have to stay there. But what happens if we lose? We've got to come all the way back here, have a week here, and then fly back again. That ends. It's a double tour. It's not just one single tour. It's double tour, and that also has an impact on how you manage the players for that block. So yeah, as I said, I just wanted to tick this box, make sure we're alive, and now we're alive. Now I'll have to make a call on how we're going to do it, and if it means that we have to expose some other players in that game, it all depending on where we play, who we play, and what our injury looks like in the next 2 weeks.
And also, just again on your other person, is it a bit of a concern now, union-wise, management-wise, where season in, season out, there's probably a period where he will get injured and you won't have him.
Yeah.
And still on that, are you confident with the fly-off starts that you have at the union at the moment?
Well, if you remember correctly, we played the first 5 games of this URC without him, and we won 4 of the 5. So, that we've managed to get away without having him on the field, and we did well. We lost a game to Scarlets that we could have won as well. So we could have been 5 from 5 without him. As I said to you earlier, I think every team is going to get. What could happen between now and the end of the derbies? Anything can happen, and I'm comfortable now with Jaco van der Walt, who's played international rugby. Got Buta, Willie can play 10. So I'm not for 1 minute sounding like a coach that's already made up my mind that Quisson's out, and therefore, but it is what it is. That we got to. I remember this sort of, when I look at you, it makes me remember John de Villiers in the World Cup in 2007 tore his bicep muscle. And then we had to play Francais. And we all know what happened. So sometimes opportunities come for other players, and and then they take those opportunities. So I'm hoping for the best. He'll definitely be out for a couple of weeks. There's no doubt in my mind about that. And then creates an opportunity and a chance for someone else that's been asking, whether, as I said, whether we play Willie at 10, whether we play, Jaco at 10, or whether we play Buta at 10. I think we can. And we've even got Keegan Johannes who's played 10 as well. So it just depends on what combination we want to go with.
And I think just also from our side, a big win at home in front of the Loftus faithful.
Unbeaten at home this year.
Sure. That's true. How much do you think this will do for the group in the changing room, just to get away from all those other stats that have been spoken about, and to just, have that feeling of winning again at home?
Yeah, you guys, stats are like a bikini. Yeah? Sometimes it hides the things you want to see and shows you the things you don't want to see, So, I can't say any other than that. We're obviously very happy we're alive in that competition now. It's not the one we want. Guys, we want to play in the Champions Cup. I said it to you, But at least every time we enter a competition, if the draw means you drop down 1 and you can play from champions to challenge, you still get a chance to win another trophy. Then we must prepare as well as we can and see whether give ourselves a fair chance. Because now there's 16 teams left, so anything's possible. It's 4 games. 4 games, we win the tournament. So just got to make sure we prepare properly.
Jake, just to look back at the Champions Cup.
Yes.
Campaign, you've made it quite clear that you feel like the tough fixtures conspired to give you the run that it gave. But when you look at Northampton and you look at Solie 3 points behind Castro last week, is there any small part of you that was maybe a missed opportunity in that sense?
Yeah. No, not a small part. A big part. I think Northampton, and that's the interesting thing I said to you. I thought about in hindsight, because you always reflect. Maybe we should have swapped the 2 teams around and played the one that played Cust against Saracens, and played the other one against Northampton. But the cost factor of that, of having to fly a team back from Connacht to come back, prepare for Northampton, and fly a whole new team to go to is, I don't think we've got that budget. And even if they said, listen, we'll pay for it, I genuinely don't think it's a battle we need to win. But yeah, there's lots. To answer your question, there's lots. I think that we've missed an opportunity there. We had a chance last week against Cust to get a point, and we didn't get that either. Even after 20 minutes, we were in the game. and we didn't. But the reason we didn't is because you see what happens when you bring a team that are inexperienced. You see a team that hasn't played together. Doesn't matter whether your budget's 46 million or your budget's 10 million. The reality is the end result is exactly the same. So, but I'm going to keep banging the drum with you guys. We need to get better players. If we're going to play in the Champions Cup, we're going to have a squad that can run out every week and swap around and rotate. The recipe that works for the Boks: big bomb squad, rotation of players, blooding youngsters with the senior players, having depth, having management of your players so you can manage them for injuries, etc. I mean, that's the recipe for success. We've seen it firsthand. So I think as a provincial coach and as a franchise coach, we just want to try and push as hard as we can that we can copy and paste that recipe, because it obviously works.
Last one for me. Listening to you talk about, what you feel has gone wrong this year as opposed to last year.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Is there a frustration that you guys don't like sort of repeating yourself? Is there a frustration
Yeah.
that history has repeated itself?
Yeah, there is some, because you also don't want to stand on a cliff and shout into the wilderness and no one listens. I mean, there's frustration because we want to win. And I'm talking about everyone wants to win. The Sharks want to win. The Stormers want to win. Everyone wants to win. And any coach who's in this job wants to win. So there is a frustration, because I want to see whether or not we're ever going to get to that point. If we're not, then I'll have to accept that the law of the land is different, and you then have to reevaluate what your role is. And if your role is then to bring players through for overseas clubs as an academy, and to give players game time while the overseas-based players are playing, and create depth and rotation for the national team, well, then I have to accept that. So, but there is frustration, because any coach, I'd like to see any coach sit here and say we don't want to win when we run out. Every coach wants to win. That's why you're in this game. So yeah, frustration isn't. It is a bit like last year. I just feel like sometimes we go one step forward, 4 steps back, and it's again sometimes our own doing. So that's why it's called coaching. And just a bit of I suppose thought that I think is done. Ever underestimate the art of coaching is also important. It's not just always the science of coaching. And that's why I listen to guys like Pep Guardiola, and I listen to Warren Gatland, and because everyone has got their own uncontrollables they need to sort out, and you learn from those coaches as well. So I hope that answers your question. I just sort of said, of course I'm frustrated, and I just hope that by this time next year our squad's stronger. And the nice thing is, guys, they will be stronger, because a guy like Ludwig that came on today after a 7, 8, 9 week injury, he'll be better next week by the fact that he actually played today. He called the line out. We didn't leave Ruan Nokia on the field for the whole game, so he had to sink or swim there. And he will, over time next year he'll be a year older, and he'll be a year more sharp, and he'll be a year, more mature. So we are going to get there. It's not all doom and gloom.
Jake, after what's been said about the team they sent here,
Yes.
and the halftime score, everyone's thought you're going to go past 50.
Yeah.
Is it a concern to you that the momentum you lost after your bench came on?
No, because we had to manage the game. We lost lineouts there, Chris. That was the fundamental thing. When you saw how many times we delivered it, we knock it on, we throw it over the back. Had we been clinical there, I can tell you it would have been different. So, I'm not gonna. I think they all understand that. But remember the one thing we couldn't control was time. And even though we were making mistakes and we gave them a scrum, we turned the ball over, we gave them another scrum, we turned the ball over, they were going to run out of time. So there was a time where there was 10 minutes left that I realized they'd have to score 3 times in 10 minutes to either get a bonus point, or they had to score to get within 21. So, could we have taken a quick line out? Maybe, but we didn't need to, because we had done what we needed to do. And that's part of the lesson that I think they also learned today, is there were times they could have chucked it in and kept it alive, and they probably put the ball down, waited for the forwards to walk, took another minute, which is all within law, and they understood that. So it is, I'm not going to lose sleep about the fact that the last 20 minutes they didn't hit their straps. Also some of them haven't played for 3-4 weeks.
Okay, and then about the fly-off, you think Coach Chairman did a good job when he had him? He slot in seamlessly.
Yeah.
Technically very good.
Yeah, and also last week he was very good as well. So it was quite, you know, I was quite happy that we put him on the bench today because we haven't had a 10 on the bench for a while. We've been doubling up with Billy to go into 10. So yeah, I'm happy. I mean, I'm not happy that I got an injury, but I'm happy he came on and it was a bit seamless, and he'll get confidence from that as well because it didn't really look like he was out of his depth. So yeah, I mean, I am obviously very chuffed for him.
Cool. Last question from Claire.
Coach, I was wondering which assessment you make of the current format of this European tournament. You already evoked a bit all the travels in play, the tiredness for the players. Are you satisfied with the current format, or you would like to see it?
Non, je voudrais changer parce que c'est très difficile pour toute l'équipe. Pour la même chose pour Stade Francais aussi. Donc c'est nécessaire avec la Ligue pour regarder l'option, peut-être jouer ensemble la semaine, ou un long terme. Mais c'est difficile parce que la saison, c'est pas possible pour chaque semaine tous les joueurs jouent. Mais c'est pas mon problème parce que c'est important pour la ligue pour regarder, c'est une option pour le futur. Ok? Merci. Merci.
Coach Jake said keep the status quo the same. Let's see what happens in the long term. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.